Good evening everyone. So let us continue with the chapter acid bases and salts. So in the previous session we studied about the nature of indicator, types of indicators, what are acids and their properties, and while discussing the properties we also understood some of the activities which give rise to hydrogen gas, carbon dioxide gas, and how do we detect that. So a lot more things we studied yesterday in the previous session. So to add to this, we ended up with a concept called what is common in acids. So we know that in acids H plus ions are common. So if you take any acids, it can be a strong acid or a weak acid so in any acids like this, H is common, right? H plus ions are common. But there is a question, do all the compounds which contains hydrogen are acids? The question is, compounds which has H plus ions are acids. So this is the question. So to check that, let us take few examples and let's try checking the properties of acids. If the properties satisfy with those compounds, then that compound which contains hydrogen ion is called as an acid. If that doesn't satisfy the property, then it is not an acid. So let us consider some of the compounds which contain hydrogen ion. So one is HCl, that is hydrochloric acid. The other one is H2SO4, sulfuric acid. Then let us take glucose, C6H12O6. This is a compound which is used to get energy. Then let us take alcohol like methyl alcohol, CH3OH. You can take any alcohols. So if you observe, there are hydrogen ions in each compounds. Now let us conduct an experiment. As we all know, one of the properties of acids, that is, acids are capable to conduct electricity at their solution states, right? They when they are taken in solution state, their ions get decomposed and those ions will help the electricity to pass through them. Hence they are called electrolytes, which we studied in the yesterday's session. Now let us conduct. Take a beaker and two rods. Rods are iron rods which are capable to conduct electricity. Connect them to an external battery. Okay, now start adding each solution to that. First let us take HCl in solution state. Why is it solution state? Because solid or gaseous form of these compounds will not conduct electricity, because electricity conduction needs ions. Ions help in carrying the charges. So we will take solution of each compound. First we take HCl and we observe that there is electricity generated, which means when we pass electricity through this, the solution will help the electricity to move in it, because HCl gets decomposed into H plus and Cl minus. These are ions. These ions are capable of conducting electricity. Similarly, when you do H2SO4, this gives rise to H plus and SO4 2 minus ion. These ions are also capable of conducting electricity. Whereas when you take glucose as a solution, that doesn't conduct electricity. Same with the alcohol. The reason being, these compounds will not get decomposed into ionic states. These elements, that is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, they will not get decomposed into ions. Means H plus ion, C plus or C minus ions are not generated. Only if there are ions present, then they are capable to conduct electricity. So this experiment proves that not all the compounds which contain hydrogen are acids. There are few compounds which conduct electricity in their ionic state are called acids. Example, hydrochloric, sulfuric acid, etc. Fine. So this was about an experiment. Let us move on further. acids do not show acidic behavior in the absence of water. So the next concept is acids do not show acidic behavior in absence of water. Okay, let us understand this. When do we call a compound as acid? It is when we put the litmus paper, it has to turn from blue to red. This blue litmus paper should turn to red when it is dipped in that solution. Then that solution is called, or that compound is called acidic in nature or acid. Here they say that in the absence of water, even though if it is acid, that will not behave like acid. Its property will not be exhibited. So how to check that? Now let us take sulfuric acid. Okay. So along with sulfuric acid, you mix sodium chloride. Means combine both sulfuric acid and sodium chloride in a boiling tube. A boiling tube is a kind of test tube which has more thickness compared to a normal test tube, because since we are dealing with acids, acids are exothermic in nature, right? They are capable to create exothermic reactions. So those reactions should not break the apparatus. Hence we use boiling tubes which are capable to withstand the heat that is produced during the reaction. So in this boiling tube we take H2SO4 and sodium chloride, which is a salt. So what do we expect in this reaction? So there will be sodium sulfate is formed along with HCl gas. It's not HCl, not hydrochloric acid, but hydrochloride gas is produced, which comes in the form of gas. So this gas, when it comes out, you collect that in a tube kind of arrangement you have to make. You should not leave the gas to eliminate, and this gas has to be treated with a litmus paper. So what is the behavior of this gas? Since it is acidic, I am taking a blue litmus paper. So this litmus paper has to turn the color into red now, isn't it? It has to turn the color into red, but it will not turn because I am using a dry litmus paper. Dry is what? It's kind of normal paper, okay? It's not dipped in water or it doesn't contain water. Now it remains the same color, it doesn't change. Once the gas passes through this, the blue litmus paper remains blue. So what we have to do? Dip that blue paper in water. So this blue litmus paper has to be dipped in water, and again you use this. Now this is a wet blue litmus paper. So what is the result that we can expect? Once the HCl gas passes through that litmus paper, it turns into red. So this proves us acid exhibits its acidic behavior only in the presence of water, but not in the absence of water. Fine? Okay, so this is an experiment. Let us move on to the next concept. Okay, let us move on further. The next concept is strong acids and weak acids. So as in the previous session we have already understood what is a strong acid and a weak acid. We took some of the examples like hydrochloric acid, sulfuric, nitric acid. Here we took carbonic acid, acetic acid, or other organic acids as weak acids. But why do we call them as a strong acid? So when an acid is put into water, it is completely ionized into H plus ions. Now if you take HCl and put that in water, it will be completely ionized. It means the ions will completely get decomposed and they are capable to conduct electricity or to show the acidic behavior. So what we can say, they get completely ionized in water. Whereas here in this weak acids, they get partially ionized. Partially means little bit, okay? Maybe for few minutes they exhibit acidic behavior, but after some time the acidic behavior might decrease or they might come to the neutral state also. So that is why they are called weak acids. So HCl, H2SO4, HNO3, acetic acid, all these are weak acids. Okay. And another thing, if we see why is it completely ionized, so HCl combining with water or getting ionized gives us hydronium ion and chlorine ion. Okay, whereas here let us take an acid, that is acetic acid. Okay, if you observe, I have used double aroma. What do you mean by double aroma? The reaction is reversible, right? It can either be acetic acid or it gets decomposed. After few seconds or after some time, the compounds will again combine together to give a complex compound, that is acetic acid. Whereas here it completely gets ionized. Once it is ionized, getting back is not easy, or you have to enhance this by getting some catalyst, or you should provide heat or etc. Okay, to get into the original state. But here, no need to provide any external energy, they get back into their original state, which is a reversible reaction. Hence, it is called partially ionizing. Fine. So examples are acetic, carbonic acid, sulfurous acid, etc. Now, so we have studied everything about the acids now. Why should we study about acid? Is there any purpose? Is there any use? So that is the ultimate intention, right? If we are studying about something, that should be useful to us. So the uses of acids, especially the mineral acids, are. So mineral acids are what? The man-made acids. So let us take the powerful acid, that is sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is used in the manufacturing of fertilizers. Fertilizers are used in crop feed to enhance the growth of plant. The supplements what the plant need may be absent in the soil. So to provide that supplement, we use fertilizers. To prepare the fertilizer in the reaction, they use sulfuric acid. Similarly, it is used in making plastics. The plastic chairs and other equipment which we use at our home are made up using sulfuric acid. It is used in electrolysis of water, which we have studied in the previous chapter. So it is used in electrolysis. It is used in making explosives. Explosives help in defense and navy for the nation to protect themselves. Along with that, some of the household items like detergents. So in manufacturing all these things, sulfuric acid is used. Then we have nitric acid. What is it used for? Nitric acid is again used to make fertilizers, because plants to prepare protein, they need nitrogen, right? So nitrogen is indirectly provided using fertilizers, which is in turn using the nitric acid. Along with that, some of the explosives are made. Fertilizers, explosives, okay, and many more like the dyes. Dyes are the colors which are used to give print on the cloths, or to give the prints on metal objects. Let us say, okay, marker now contains many words here. To give these prints on this flex paper, we use nitric acid. It is not directly used. Maybe in the manufacturing of these colors, it is used. That is dyes. Okay, and then hydrochloric acid, as we know, it is naturally produced in our stomach. It helps in the chemical digestion. Whichever the food we consume is broken down, which is the part of chemical digestion. HCl is a mandatory acid required. Okay, so HCl helps in digestion in our stomach. Along with that, they are also used in the textile industry for putting the dye. Okay. Textile industry is cloth manufacturing or making cloths, where it is used for dyeing purpose, to add colors or fabrics to the cloths. And then it is also used in leather industry. Okay, many more like that. So these are the uses of acids. We basically talk about three strong acids: sulfuric, nitric, and hydrochloric acid. And these are also called as mineral acids. This is the uses. So that is all about acids. We have discussed all about acids. Now we will move on to bases. bitter gourd or mango which is not which is unripened. Okay, if you eat that, the taste what you get is bitter. Okay, or when you eat the neem stick or the neem leaves, what is the taste you get is bitter. Okay, bases are bitter in taste and they are soapy to touch, soapy or smooth. Okay, so when you touch a soap, how do you feel? You cannot hold that, right? It moves away from your hand. So that is what the texture of the base is. And bases turns the litmus paper from red to blue. Okay, it turns the indicator litmus paper from red color to blue color. So this is an indication to identify whether the given solution is acid or a base. Now, when an acid and a base comes together, when they both react, which we studied in the properties of acid, that is, an acid and a base gives a salt and water, which means this is called neutralization or neutralizing an acid. What do you mean by neutralization? The acid is more powerful, it is corrosive in nature, it can conduct electricity, lot many properties it carries. When it comes in contact with a base, like HCl coming in contact with NaOH, which is a base, the property of acid is completely vanished. Vanished is, it loses its behavior. It cannot be corrosive, or it cannot be creating some heat, or it cannot be exothermic. Whereas the base, whatever the property it has, even that loses when it comes in contact with acid. Hence we see a neutral acid or a base, that is water here. This is called neutralization reaction. So what are some examples of bases? Some of the examples are NaOH, KOH, NH3OH, many more. Sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, ammonium hydroxide. So what is common in a base? It is OH minus ions are common in any bases. Okay. And along with that, all the metal oxides are also called as bases. What do you mean by metal oxides? Now Zn is a metal that combines with an oxygen to form zinc oxide. So now this is a base. Okay. Similarly, all the metal carbonates are also bases. What is metal carbonate? Carbonate is CO3. We will add a metal like sodium or zinc or magnesium, zinc carbonate, sodium carbonate, magnesium carbonate. This is a base. Okay, so who are the bases? Whoever contains OH minus ion, whichever compound. Along with that, all the metal oxides and metal carbonates are some of the bases. Now, there are some water soluble bases. What's the meaning of water soluble bases? Put a base into water. It is many of the bases are not completely dissolvable or soluble in water. They will not get completely dissolved into water. But some of the bases will get completely dissolved in water. So such bases are called alkalis. Okay, so bases, some dissolves in water. So they are called alkalis, or you can say alkali, that's it. So if you observe the periodic table, you get alkali metals, alkaline earth metals, like that. They are again sub-categorized into alkali and alkaline. Acids are acidic in nature, whereas bases are alkaline in nature. Okay, both the behavior are opposite. They contain H plus, these contain OH minus. Fine. So some of the examples of alkalis are KOH, NaOH, CaOH, potassium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide. These are called alkalis. You can expect one mark question or MCQs. What are alkalis? Some of the bases which dissolve in water are called alkalis. Examples are KOH, NaOH and CaOH ice. And then, so again the same question. what is common in all the bases? OH minus ion is common in all the most of the bases. That is NaOH, KOH or MgOH. Wise. Take any base, it all contains OH minus ions. And when they get dissolved in water, or if they are taken in aqueous form, they get decomposed into ions. If you take NaOH and taken in a solution state, they decompose to form Na plus and OH minus. Similarly, you take any bases, they form respective ions. Okay. Now, again, bases are categorized into strong bases and weak bases. It's the usual definition which we gave to the acids. When they are combined or when they are taken in a solution state along with water, they give excess of OH minus ions. When weak bases are taken in water or in a solution state, they give less amount of OH minus ions. The concentration of OH minus ion is excess in strong bases, less in weak bases, which is completely ionizing. Here it is partially ionizing. Okay, so what are the examples? NaOH, KOH gets completely ionized, whereas ammonium hydroxide and magnesium hydroxide will get partially ionized. So this is about the weak and strong bases. Moving ahead about the properties of bases. So properties are again similar to acids. But there are some changes. Acid was sour to taste, whereas bases are bitter in taste. Okay. So acids turn the litmus paper from blue to red. Bases turn from red to blue. And then they are soapy to touch. When acids react with bases, or bases reacting with acid, which gives water plus a salt, which was same which we learned in acids property again. This is called neutralization reaction. Then bases reacting with metals. Remember, acids reacting with metals, what happened? It gave a salt, respective metal salt, and then hydrogen gas was evolved. Here also, when a base reacts with metal, it gives a respective salt and hydrogen gas will be evolved. We can use the same activity. Take some zinc granules. Okay, there we used sulfuric acid, zinc granules reacting with sulfuric acid. Here the zinc granules will be reacting with the strong base NaOH. So what can we expect here? We expect sodium zincate, Na2Zn O2. Please make it a mark. You are coming across a new compound. It is sodium zincate. So far, whatever we used, the compounds were all new. It was not new to us. This was familiar. This is a new compound, so sodium zincate. Along with that, hydrogen gases evolved. So how do we check that? Once this reaction happens, collect this gas from using a tube and put it in water containing soap. Okay, take it in soap water. Once this air comes and hits the soap water, it gives bubbles, right? So the bubbles rises up. Once it rises, bring a candle or a splinter near to that bubbles. It gives you popping sound. And remember, I told you in the previous session, hydrogen gas is the only gas which gives popping sound when it is burnt or when it is ignited. So the popping sound tells us the presence of hydrogen gas in this reaction. Okay? You can copy down that, or you can remember the last concept which we studied in acid. Then the next property is bases reacting with non-metal oxides, which is new to us, which we didn't study in acids, which is property number 7. Okay, and I forgot to tell you, bases also conduct electricity when they are in solution state, which means bases get decomposed into ions, Na plus OH minus. These are called electrolytes. They are capable of conducting electricity, which is a property of bases. The last property, bases reacting with non-metal oxide. Okay, we have three concepts. We know metal oxide. What are these non-metal oxides? So it gives rise to salt and water again. So the product side is easy for us. In each reaction, we can always expect a salt and a water. Only in few cases we can expect hydrogen gas or carbon dioxide gas. Now we will take an example. So CaOH twice, which is a weak base, calcium hydroxide, combining with a non-metal oxide, that is CO2. CO2 is carbon dioxide. It is also, carbon is a non-metal which is combined with oxygen to form non-metal oxide or carbon dioxide, which gives rise to calcium carbonate. Along with that H2O, water is formed. Calcium carbonate is a salt and water is obtained along with that. So this is a reaction of base with non-metal oxide. Okay, now coming down to the uses of base. So ultimately, why should we study about bases? Is there any use? Is there any purpose for us? Yes. So as I told you in the beginning, bases reacting with acids can neutralize the action of acid. Let us say a person is acidic or he feels acidity in his stomach. So what can we do? In the place of acid, if you put the base, they both get neutralized and the person feels relief. Correct? His pain will be relieved, his food will be digested, and he can continue with his activity. So bases are used in preparing antacids. Antacids are certain chemical substances, basically the bases. Okay, they can neutralize the reaction of an acid. Fine. Okay, we'll come to this. So some of the examples of antacids are, so we can take magnesium hydroxide. Magnesium hydroxide is an example of antacid, and it is used in preparation of a synthetic fiber called rayon. So you know, in the fabrics we have different patterns or different types: rayon, nylon, synthetic, etc. So in the preparation of rayon, which is a synthetic fiber, a kind of cloth, bases are used to manufacture that. Then, so it is also used to prepare washing soda and baking soda. All the sodas which people use are basically made of bases. So washing soda is used in detergent powders, and baking soda, which is used in preparing idlis or to prepare bread or any cake. Okay, to get that texture or to get that I'm not getting the right word. To prepare bread and other things, the bakery products, baking soda is used. Usually at home we will be using this for preparing idli batters, right? Then, and then where else it is used? It is used in fire extinguishers. So at schools or hospitals you might be seeing the fire extinguishers. At the time of fire accidents, the fire extinguishers help in the cutting off of the fire. So the component used is bases. Fire extinguishers. Okay. Other than that, it is used in making bleaching powders. So bleaching powder is nothing but calcium hydroxide, CaOH. Calcium hydroxide. Bleaching powders are used to clean the toilets or the floors or places where acid content is more. So it is used in bleaching powder. Also the toothpaste which we use is a kind of base because the acids get accumulated in our teeth. To remove those acids, the toothpaste also contains a kind of base to make it neutralization reaction. So that's all about bases. We'll continue further after a short break. Okay? Take a break. Okay, we'll continue with this. The next concept is the strength of an acid or a base. Okay, so what do you mean by strength? How powerful is an acid or a base? We say that hydrochloric acid is a strong acid. How do we decide it is a strong acid? So there are some hints like excess of OH minus ion tells us it is a strong base. Similarly, excess of H plus ions tells us it is a strong acid. The other way, the less number of OH minus ions is a weak acid, weak base and weak acid. So how do we decide that? If you consider water where they are equal in concentration. Like there is one H plus ion, there is one OH minus ion. Hence it is neutral. To decide this, we have a concept called pH scale. So pH scale is a scale, kind of scale, which consists only numbers. It doesn't have any units. It is not measured in kgs or liters or nothing. It only has numbers from 0 to 14 and the middle value is taken as 7. Okay? Any acid or a base which gives a number below 7 are acids, above 7 are bases. Okay? So if I say hydrochloric acid showed 1 on the pH scale, then we call that as a strong acid, because see here, as it moves nearer to 0, it is a strong acid. As it moves nearer to 7, it is a weak acid. Okay, this side is all strong acids, coming this side is all weak acids. When it comes to 7, it is neutral acid or neutral base or a neutral compound, that is water. If you check the pH scale of water, it exactly gives 7. Okay? If you take distilled water, it will exactly tell you 7 or it shows 7 in measurement. Whereas if you take the rainwater, it is kind of acidic because rainwater flows through many soil or it passes many regions. So while it is flowing like a stream, it carries a lot of salts, lot of chemical components. And when it is passing out the atmosphere and coming down to the earth, it carries sulfur dioxide gas, nitrogen dioxide gas, which combine with water to form sulfuric acid and nitric acids. Hence, they are all strong acids. Similarly, bases. So, as it goes near to 14, they are called strong bases. As it comes near to 7, they are called weak bases. So example, NaOH is a strong base because it is almost near to 14, whereas ammonium hydroxide is a weak base which is closer to 7, maybe 8 or 9. Okay, so now let us understand how to check the numbers on the pH scale. How do we come and land up with that numbers? Okay, now let us say this is a pH scale. So this pH scale contains certain numbers like this. It only has numbers, but how do we arrive at these numbers? That is using a universal indicator. While talking about indicators, I told you there is a special indicator called universal indicator. Now, if I have to say that hydrochloric acid shows 1, whereas acetic acid shows 4. Okay, acetic acid is 4. Similarly, NaOH shows 10. NaOH shows 14, whereas magnesium hydroxide shows 10. It's a weak base. This is a weak base, this is a strong base. This is a weak acid and acetic acid is a HCl is a strong acid, acetic acid is a weak acid. So how do we come to this level? How do we get to know the numbers? It is using a universal indicator. Universal indicator is an indicator manufactured by combination of several indicators like methyl orange, phenolphthalein are all combined to give a common indicator which not only tells you whether the solution is acidic or basic, it also tells us the strength of the acid. Okay, so strength is what? I take HCl, I take let us say acetic acid. So we consider that HCl is a strong acid compared to acidic. How do we know that it is? Using the universal indicator. It is a paper. When it is put in HCl, it gives you a kind of color. Similarly, when it is put in the acetic acid, it gives you a slightly different color. Of course, they all change from blue to red, but there is slight differentiation in the red color. Okay, it can be light red, mild red, or faded red, or dark red, etc. So we'll see which colors represent which numbers on the pH scale. Okay, if we consider the pH scale, it starts from dark red, that is at 0 we have dark red, then followed by red, red again, orangish color, orange yellow, and green at the middle. So what can we expect when water is put in a universal indicator, or universal indicator is put in water, the paper turns into green color. This tells the water's pH scale is 7. Okay. Similarly, when hydrochloric acid is kept and a universal indicator is put in that, it gives us red color. Okay. Because 0 is dark red, 1 is red, which tells us HCl is a strong acid. Okay, and its number is 1. Similarly, when you check the alkalines, that is bases, NaOH obtains 14, which is the last color is violet. Okay, and slowly it decreases, violet, again dark violet, sorry, dark purple, purple, navy blue, etc. It keeps coming blue and finally tends to green color. Understood? So these colors are given by universal indicator. The pH scale is just a scale with numbers. To arrive at that numbers, we use universal indicator. Okay. And what else? Yeah. Then importance of pH in everyday life. So in day-to-day activities like the digestion, the teeth, or the soil where the plants grow, the animals where the environment where animals are living, every place is contained the pH, and there is a limit. Okay, inside our stomach a certain pH has to be balanced. Now if we ask about the body temperature, if it crosses 98 degrees Fahrenheit, then we say that person is undergoing fever. Okay. Similarly, for blood pressure we have certain numbers. For pH also there are some numbers. That has to be balanced in our body. If this pH is differed, then we experience different kind of diseases. Let us see what are those pH differentiations. And what is pH? pH is the hydrogen ion concentration, or the power, the strength of the potential of hydrogen ions. You can tell potential from hydrogen ions. Okay, so how we are defining this? Acids contain H plus, bases contain OH minus, but pH scale is defined using H plus. The lesser the concentration, the more the concentration of H plus is acidic, the lesser the concentration is basic. So in that way we define pH is potential from hydrogen. Okay, pH in everyday life. Everyday life is what? It includes the digestion, or inside our body, what is the pH that has to be maintained. Then in our tools, because whatever we consume, it is through our mouth, isn't it? So mouth means the teeth has to help us in grinding the food. So where the acidic or the bases are coming in contact. And then the soil, in soil we have the plant's growth, and then the animals in the environment. Animals can be both terrestrial and aquatic. So aquatic, again, the water, the ocean water or the river water is either acidic or basic in nature. So all those things let us study. So coming to the pH in our digestive system, so it should not be in acidic medium. There should not be excess of acid in our stomach. This leads to the spoilage of the tissues inside our stomach, or the outer covering of the stomach or the layer will get vanished, and this causes diseases like gastritis or gastrointestinal diseases, ulcers, etc. Okay, so pH in our body should be maintained always between they have not given us any proper number here, but we can assume it should not be less than 7. Less than 7 is acidic, right? Always being that neutral is better. So 7 or 7.5 or being little basic or alkaline is good for our health. It should not go below 7. If it goes, then it is dangerous for our health. So hence, antacids are suggested for a person who is suffering from gastritis problem to neutralize the reaction inside his stomach. So some of the antacids, as we studied in the uses of bases, that is magnesium hydroxide, sodium hydrogen carbonate are some of the bases which are used. Then pH that changes the tooth into tooth decay. Since we consume a lot of food, most of our food is carbohydrates or sugar. So if it is not cleaned properly, especially in small children, if they don't properly brush their teeth, it accumulates and acids form in their teeth, and that leads to decay and spoilage of the teeth. So to avoid that, the toothpaste what we use is filled up with bases. So the bases will remove the acid which is present and gives a neutralization reaction. So here it should not always fall below 5.5. If the acidity in the mouth, if it is checked, it should not be less than 5.5. It can be more than 5.5. It means we have an healthy tooth or healthy mouth. It should not be less than 5.5. Coming to the plants and animals which are more sensitive to pH changes. Soil, since it gets the rainwater or the farmers keep on spraying the fertilizers, the soil is more it gets acidic very often. So we need to avoid that acidity, because acidic condition will spoil the growth of plant, or there will be biomagnification, which we studied in our environment. More and more chemicals get added up into the food and it travels through the food chain. So the pH, normal pH scale for the soil should be between 4 to 8.3. It should not go above 8.3. It should not be neither basic nor acidic. It should be between 4 to 8.3 for soil. Okay. Then for the survival of animals, that is in the water or in the environment, the pH scale should be between 7 to 7.8. So this will ensure the growth of aquatic animals. So if you see, the oceans and the sea contains more of salts and more of acidic materials which flow through the rivers. So there, if it crosses this limit, then the aquatic animals like fishes, others will die. So in the soil, if it becomes more acidic often, the farmers will spray the calcium hydroxide or slake lime to the soil to make it neutralized, because calcium hydroxide is a base. If the soil is more acidic, they will spray the calcium hydroxide and make it as a neutralized soil. And yes, self-defense by using the pH mechanism. Some of the plants and animals, to protect themselves from the enemies or from the predators, they use self-defense mechanism of pH scale. For example, the honeybee, if it bites, the honeybee sting, if it bites, a kind of acid is injected into our body. Okay, that is why if honeybees bite, the whole body becomes swollen and it is quite dangerous and toxic. There are some cases where the person has even attained death also. So it is the acid which creates pain and irritation. So at that time, immediately, when an honeybee bites, immediately the person has to use kind of bases like sodium hydroxide or any baking soda has to be applied wherever the honeybee has bitten the person. So this pain and irritation will go away. It gets neutralized. The toxin will be removed because it has injected acid for us. We are using a base. It gets neutralized. Okay. Similarly, when a wasp is a kind of insect which also injects alkaline. Honeybee injects acidic liquid, whereas there is an insect called wasp. It injects alkaline liquid, that is basic in nature. It is putting base into our body. So we have to use some acid. Don't put hydrochloric acid or sulfuric acid. Okay, it will spoil the situation. So we can use mild acids like vinegar. Okay, if we use vinegar, then the reaction will be neutralized and we get relief from that. Similarly, if an ant bites, it injects formic acid, we can use soda to relieve from the pain. And ant also injects methanoic acid, so we can use baking soda to get relief from the burning pain. And there are some plants which also uses the pH scale as the defense mechanism. That is, when a person happens to touch the leaves of a nettle plant is kind of a cactus plant which has more thorns. Okay, even I have not seen that plant which has more nettle leaves, means a kind of injected thorns, sharp thorns. If you touch that, methanoic acid gets into your body. Okay, so at that time we can use baking soda to get relief from that pain. We are talking all about neutralization reaction here. Okay, so that's all about the bases. We are left out with salts, which we will complete in tomorrow's session. Okay.